Sonja and Tarzan isn't pure SJW cringe like Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel, but there is enough racism to break the flow of the story. Once you see a few instances, the reader is always waiting for the other shoe to drop. You'll never see an antagonist, at least not a really malevolent one, being played by a brown or black character. For example, if you wanted to tell the story of Shaka of the Zulus, you couldn't do it. He was a violent sociopath who slaughtered an R word I can't say on YouTube his way across Central Africa. He would also make for a fun, non-PC comic, because he did great and terrible things. It makes for a good story. Want to tell a story about the Japanese during World War II? You can't do it, because they were the bad guys. How bad? Ask the Chinese and Koreans how bad. Ask the American and English POWs how bad. Telling the story of Shaka would blow people away, because it would be refreshingly non-PC. Show the Zulus our word and slaughtering the Dutch. Show the English slaughtering the Zulus, because it's what humans do. They go to war and they R-word each other. You can't make the English or the Germans the bad guy in every piece of media. It makes a predictable story, and predictable stories are boring. In Tarzan, Red Sonja, an Englishman and a German who look like Ron Jeremy go to Africa to fight. There's no shortage of bad guys in Africa. Arms dealers, warlords, bloodthirsty chiefs. You don't need to import bad guys. The place is huge. You can find a scumbag to fight. Don't purse puppy an entire continent. Find a brutal chief who is slaughtering elephants and trading ivory to the Chinese for metal objects that move lead at high velocity. Words I can't say on YouTube. Because guess what? The Chinese still are responsible for the slaughter of rhinos and elephants. Gail can't tell the story without taking jabs at the English and Germans and all Europeans in general. Oh, and women are good, men are bad. Even the bad swordswoman is having pangs of consciousness. There is no shortage of bad women. Red Sonja herself is an example. She is a violent, drunken slut who routinely attacks people who disrespect her. The story could have been fun without the anti-German, anti-English hatred and the misandry. A well-rounded story can't grind an axe. Gail grinds away. A brave woman in a hijab versus evil German men. As if the hijab wasn't subtle enough, she has to praise Allah. Okay, Gail, we get it. Islam is good in her world, and English or German men are bad. Why not both? What a daring concept. In case Gail isn't aware, the Muslim treatment of women is much worse than the German or English treatment of women, but this topic is haram. We mustn't ever speak of it. Why does Red Sonja work in the role of badass female barbarian when other women don't? She is likable. Sometimes it's just that simple. We are willing to suspend our disbelief when we like the character. It explains Arnold Schwarzenegger films. Red Sonja is a violent, drunken slut. It's a fun character because S3X is fun and alcohol is fun. It's refreshing to see a character let her hair down and live life to the fullest. In Red Sonja Tarzan 1, Tarzan marries an Arab girl. Did Tarzan become Muslim? The story skips that issue because asking hard questions is haram. Meet Ron Jeremy, a cliché bad guy who abuses animals and women. Gail has Ron Jeremy say, "Women are all orifice and no balls." What kind of insult is that? Women do have orifices, thank God, and they don't have balls. I suspect Gail thought she was being naughty. Taking the braid symbolizes a gang R word that I can't say on YouTube. I guess the book is an all-ages book because they skip all the violent scenes. In the second issue, Gail has one of the characters say, he means that my master is not a goodly man in the Christian sense. Why bring religion into the story at all? This pings on my radar. It's not a hard ping of approaching aircraft, more of a soft chime. Could be anything, but it's something. SJW writers don't mention Christianity or Islam without reason, and the reason is to portray one in a bad light and one in a good one. Guess which one is which? These are the covers for number 3. The covers are kind of inconsistent. When you take a quick glance at them, they appear okay, but once you look at the details, it's kind of a little bit funny. It's okay. I see the look of the face is a little bit odd. That's okay. Let's take a look at. Gail has has a character called the Englishman European. It's another ping on the radar. Gail uses that word for a reason and not a positive one. Do you think Gail would call someone an African or an Asian? Nope. Bad Ron Jeremy kills elephants and sells the tusks to the Chinese so they can make medicine. Except Gail left out the Chinese part. I wonder why. It doesn't fit the narrative. The sword MacGuffin, it's a convenient plot device when Deus Ex Machina is busy. Tarzan lives in Africa with his Muslim Arab daughter and female bodyguard, of course. The nanny is male because why not? It's odd that Gail didn't make Tarzan marry an English woman or an African woman. Blonde hair bad, African woman good. Gail, we get it. Of course, the African man who is full of muscles is the nanny, while the woman is the bodyguard, because girl power. If you believe in the principle that racism, bigotry, prejudice are malum se, wrong in and of themselves, then it doesn't matter if the victims of racism are English, German, Japanese, Brazilian, Jewish, or Irish. Hatred just breeds more hatred. The reason Gail uses the Germans and English as her fall guys is because nobody will stick up for them. But I will, because racism is wrong no matter who the victim is. You aren't attacking a faceless Englishman or German. You are hurting real people who don't deserve your hatred. But Bianca, somebody has to be the bad guy. What are we supposed to do? You do what normal, non-axe-grinding people do. You rotate bad guys. This means that in one book, the malevolent character is the Englishman, but in the next, he or she is the Arab or African. If you want the antagonist to be Christian, fine, but the next time he has to be Jewish, Muslim, or Hindu. But SJW writers refuse to do this. They fear Twitter mobs, so every antagonist is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed German or an Englishman. Gail cucks the big 200-pound muscular man so the 130-pound woman can do battle against a dozen men armed with high-velocity devices. Words I can't say on YouTube. The men ignore their distance weapons and attack the woman with knives for no reason at all. It's the worst kind of writing. It's logically inconsistent. Even a child would wonder why the men didn't use their distance tools and simply dispatch the woman from across the room. Gail includes a line, the pride of Germany. Gail doesn't say that line for no reason. It's just another little racist jab. Hijab woman with lipstick? That's haram, Gail. Her husband will beat her for that, but he will use a cane no thicker than his thumb so he doesn't cripple her. One thing Gail seems to forget about people running around Africa 100 years ago. Bad Ron Jeremy would have had a few African guides. I wonder why Gail left them out of the story. Note Gail and Tarzan's dig at civilization. Of course, England and Germany have violent pasts, but so does the rest of the world, especially Africa. Tribes would routinely wipe each other out to steal each other's cattle and women, because it's what humans do. Credit to the artist, he seems to specialize in women's faces. They really come to life. Why are there so many? That's pretty good. Why are there so many covers? I don't know. Look at the guy's quadricep. I don't think I think the bones are supposed to be straight. That's not bad. The face is kind of weird, though. Why so many mediocre covers? I don't know who does the covers. The first scene is a Muslim woman in a hijab being abused by the kafar, because why not? Let's subvert expectations. It's hysterical that Gail has furry Ron Jeremy say that pack mules and bedmates line about, he says, I've always said women are useful as bedmates and pack mules. Why they gave them the gift of speech. In the 1920s in Africa, how do you think African women were treated? African men had many wives so they could work the fields while the men watched the cattle. Much of Africa was, and still is, an actual patriarchy, where women are literally bought and sold for cattle. Gail Simone has a scene where the characters are drooling over a half-naked Tarzan. In her world, that's sexist. If Gail were male, she'd be called out as a disgusting, dirty old man. Is Gail a disgusting, dirty old woman, objectifying the human form? In the world of NPC outrage culture, yes. Degenerate Ron Jeremy in a furry costume. I think if you laugh at a dude in a bear cosplay, then you get what happens. Maybe he's the first furry. Don't be so judgmental, Gail. It's current year. degenerate furry Ron Jeremy steals the plot device. Tarzan looks like a Folsom Street BDSM extra. I suspect Gail had Conan the Barbarian playing on repeat while she wrote this. It's a hell of a sculpture, but it doesn't look like they had the technology to attach giant concrete blocks to each other. But why nitpick? The multi-dimensional world hopping scene works pretty well, especially with the Martian robot. Again, Gail takes every opportunity to point out that the character is German. German, we get it, Gail. It's open season on Germans for some reason. Get over it, Gail. They make great cars. Ron Jeremy's sidekick is a female from Argentina, so Gail can't write her as evil as the main character because reasons. But some of the scenes are pretty well done. The art is hit or miss. Some of the art is really well done, and then some of the background scenes are just barely sketched in. I don't know. It kind of feels like there was a problem with the timing, like they just run out of time. Why do they have Tarzan? Oh well. This character is at 12. This is supposed to be a 12-year-old boy. Most 12-year-olds at 12 you might be 5'10", and at 16 you might reach your full height of 6'1". The art is really hit or miss. And Gail takes an opportunity to point out that this is a grenade from 1915. Apologize for crude design. It was made obsolete by the war, blah, blah, blah. Germany stockpiled so many of them. You don't need to keep pointing out that Germans made grenades. Every country made them. You can stop hating on Germany. She has 400-pound apes swinging on vines. Wide-lit logic get in the way of a bad story. Again, where are the African guides? You don't go through Africa without experts. Anyway, furry Ron Jeremy, it looks like he is filming an adult video at a Renaissance fair. It says the character is groveling, but yeah, all he did was drop a knife. Yada yada yada. Men are evil. I wonder if Gail Simone would have read Sonja ripping her top off before battle. Odd, only the men take their tops off. Free the nipple, Gail. Well, not yours. Drawing animals is not this guy's strong suit. Humans, especially women's faces, are. I think there must have been some time pressure. Some panels are barely drawn. Gail makes a comment about the species you demolished. I think this is a jab at the West in general, but it doesn't make sense. The West is pretty good about protecting biodiversity. India, China, Middle East, Africa, Latin America will gladly eat a species to extinction and then pave over its habitat. Some of the stuff's done pretty well. It's kind of a, this is a kind of this is the journey to the center of the earth part. You get what looks like pterodactyls that in the next scene turn into dragons for some reason. But the image at the bottom of the bird, kind of in the darkness and the stars, it makes me think of that quote. Something about we're like birds, from the darkness we come, into a brief flash of light, into the darkness we go. I wonder if he had that in mind when he drew it. The whole time I'm thinking, this book would be great if you got rid of the racism. So why does Gail include the racism? The obvious answer is that she is a racist. The subtle answer is that she wouldn't be safely in the center of the herd if she didn't attack the English or Germans. Her fellow NPCs would raise an eyebrow if she didn't attack the English or Germans. If you have English or Germans in a story, you pretty much have to be racist against them, or you'll be accused of racism. It's a weird logic. NPCs run deep programming. Gail includes a line where the character is said she aspires to fight like a man. The woman who works for him fights like a man, probably better than one. The line doesn't make any sense. In one scene, Red Sonja has a bow and arrow slung across her back, and then there's part of a plot device where she says she needs to steal the bow from these guards, but she already has the bow, and now she's either carrying one or two bows, but he doesn't carry a bow. So I don't know if I'm misunderstanding that or if it's just a bad plot device. And in one of the scenes, she's kissing Tarzan, and Tarzan's kind of demurring and saying he's married or something like that. But I mean, if you really let your hair down in this comic, they would be banging in every other panel. So I don't know. I guess this is kind of G-rated. She has the woman from Argentina sacrifices herself because she says he told me I was a slave so often I came to believe it. I guess in Gail's world, women have no agency. They can't make their own decisions. It's really, I mean, everything is women are bad. I mean, women are good and men are bad. It's really strange. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you think.